Hello everyone and welcome to The Build Show. I'm John Peitzman, JP, certified high performance coach and creator of the Build framework. I work with individuals and teams all around the world to help them thrive in their personal and professional lives. And as your host on this show, our aim is to transform lives one guest at a time. And how do we do that? We do that by having amazing guests. And today is no different. We have with us Siobhan O'Toole. Siobhan is a delivery expert who has worked internationally across global brands, delivering new products and transforming organizations. She is a co-founder of Warndu, an Indigenous Australian native food and well-being brand whose aim is to regenerate culture, community, tradition, health, and our soils. Most recently, a breast cancer survivor and thriver, she turned adversity into fundraising over $80,000 while partnering with a team of doctors to create a free exercise rehab program. Her latest hustle is working with a team of doctors and Olympic champion Michael Klim to launch The Exercise Prescription, a book that focuses on the benefits of exercise in all aspects of life. It's my privilege to have her with us here today. Siobhan, welcome to The Build Show.
It's great to be here. Thanks, JP.
So tell us a little bit more about your background maybe, and also what you're most excited about in this chapter of your life.
Sure. I was born on Yorta land, which is actually on the Murray River in Australia. And I grew up my parents moved out from England in the 1970s to Australia. And so I grew up in this small country town, and I was kind of always pushing to get out of that small country town, as I think I've always been driven to try and make things a little bit better, make things a little bit bigger. And my ambition was much greater than what that little 3,600 town could contain. So, as you said, that drove me to, I actually went to America when I was 15 as an exchange student, as my first attempt at escaping.
What part of America?
Texas.
Okay, Texas. There you go.
Yeah. So I spent 6 months in America having an amazing experience, and then I, of course, had to come back to Australia, finish my school, finish my university, and then my second escape attempt was to go to the Netherlands, to the UK, and then another time I then went to the Netherlands. And then I worked out of the Netherlands for more than 6 years.
Right.
And that's where I'd worked with Accenture, a global consultancy brand. And I learned a lot about fairness in the Netherlands and had a very different insight into how there is no public health, or there is no public wealth without public health. Right. And it was very interesting to be in a very different society in the Netherlands, which really changed a lot of my thinking. And eventually I moved back to Australia, and I imported a Dutchman. I increased the height ratio in Australia substantially.
Well done.
Yeah,
I balanced that out when I came, but that's okay.
Exactly. So he's about 1.96 m, and I just imported him to Australia. I call him my Dutch husband. But
right.
What I'm most excited about, I guess, is that I've kind of come to this understanding that over time, everyone spoke about having a portfolio of money. Everyone spoke about having you've got to make sure that you have all of your assets in different buckets.
Right, diversification.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so I kind of applied that to my work life, because I don't believe there's such a thing as work and personal life. There's just life. And so I diversified probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I think people call that a side hustle. Somehow I ended up with many. But I guess that's what makes it very exciting today, is that I'm still able to work in an industry where I'm delivering high value outcomes for large organizations. But I'm really passionate about the work that I'm doing to build up Warndu as a company that really is helping to shape and change the way we respect and understand Indigenous culture, as well as consume the food of our land and help with our regeneration of our soils. And then also, of course, the exercise, and how do we actually help to get free access to cancer patients so that they can actually heal and fight cancer.
Right, because you have a personal journey.
Yes,
with that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, I love walking through the Build framework, obviously, and we can do that as kind of a framework for our conversation too. For those of you who still don't know what Build stands for, Build is an acronym, of course. It stands for Build Relationships, Understand the Business, Implement Strategies, Lead and Inspire, and deliver excellence. And what I love about the Build Show is that even though the framework remains the same, all of the experiences of our guests are individual, right? And we make the Build framework ours. So
Absolutely.
if we start with B, build relationships, I mean, what are some of the key relationships that you've had throughout your life?
Look, I was kind of struggling when I went to answer and thought about, okay, well, what is that for me? And it's really hard because if I don't say my husband, it'll be really weird.
That's right.
Especially
your Dutch husband, right?
My big Dutch husband. Especially because he is, I met my husband later in life. And so I was like 35 when we met, and we got married he proposed inside of 2 weeks, and we were married inside of a year.
In 2 weeks?
Yeah, in 2 weeks. And we were married inside of a year, and I had a motorcycle accident within 4 days before we got married. We still got married in the hospital. And
really? Wow.
yeah, I guess we've been together for 7 years now, and in that time he's been through me having a motorcycle accident, importation to Australia, trying to get a job and do all of these kind of things, and then his wife ends up getting cancer. So I think if I didn't say something about my husband, I think that would be a little bit horrific. But when I actually think about that in terms of the Build framework and in terms of what does that mean, he really taught me a lot about listening and asking questions and being more curious without judgment. One of the great things about Dutch people is their ability to debate a topic without it being an attack.
Right.
And so what that really meant for me is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, the most important relationship that you can establish is that with your doctor. And it really made me question whether I trusted the breast surgeon who I was originally seeing. And I decided I didn't. So I used a little bit of the knowledge of 20 years of consultancy and then that questioning to think, right, well, what's most important here is your ability to actually, you can't know everything about breast cancer or about cancer when you're diagnosed, but you do have to establish that trust and that relationship with the person who is going to guide you through that journey.
Absolutely.
And so I actually went and dated a couple of doctors in the sense that you have to pay $450 to see them, but you actually go...
That's an expensive dinner, right?
It's an expensive dinner, but it's a really expensive one if you mess it up.
Yes.
And so I went and found another doctor, Dr. Cindy Mack, who was the same kind of person who I am, was very outcome driven, and I believe actually executes beautifully with inside of the deliver excellence component of the Build framework. But she really helped me to go on a journey through breast cancer in a way where I was able to question and be curious, but and still telling me what to do without me feeling as though I wasn't able to question and understand what was going on. And so I think it was a really important part, was that also helped me to then find the right oncologist, and that oncologist helped me to get into an exercise program during my cancer treatment.
And were you active in exercise before?
I was moderately active.
Okay.
I've never been a great athlete. I used to run when I was a kid. I used to, like when I went to America, I was running and stuff. But I mean, I'm a moderate, I think I'm a moderate exerciser. And before cancer, I think I was actually probably the worst I'd been in my life because I'd had the motorcycle accident and I hadn't really allowed myself to rehab.
Right.
I just got straight back into life and work, and all of these kind of things, and not really invested the time in rehabilitating my leg and my hand that I broke, and how do you actually make sure that you're whole again and that you've healed, and that you've actually also healed probably some of the emotional grief of going through something like that. But these relationships that were so important was Dr. Sarah and Dr. Cindy actually got me engaged in an exercise program where we were studying the impacts of exercise on breast cancer. And I love recognition. I love little gold stars if you did a good job.
Smiley faces.
Smiley faces of good job. And so it was really helpful for me to have a relationship through my cancer journey where I was accountable to a doctor to help her do her PhD. And I know that I was fighting my cancer fight, but I worked out to help her study.
Yeah.
And that gave me something else that I was working on that wasn't just my cancer, which can be very victim feeling.
Yeah, it's like a partnership, right? Towards something greater. Right?
Exactly. And so those relationships, I think, that are so important is the, that a real ability to use questions to find a person that you have trust and intent with, a person who operates in the way that you operate. I remember that Dr. Cindy said to me, "You are going to write me an email in 2 days and it will be angry and it's okay and you can ask all the questions you want to ask." She read me like a book.
Right.
I sat there in that meeting and went, okay, that's a lot to take on. All of a sudden I'm going to have 8 months of chemotherapy, I'm going to have surgery, and I'm going to have radiation. She didn't tell me a bit of the story, she told me the whole story. And then I'm like, I don't need chemo. Why do I need chemo? Why do I have to have chemo? It's tiny. But, you know, that whole experience of allowing me to ask the questions and allowing someone to actually come back and process the information without charging me another $450 to go in for a subsequent visit.
Right.
And I think that's the intent and the goodness that comes out of the importance of building the right relationships with people, and that the people that operate in the same way that you operate, and people who can understand and read you.
Right. And I love that too, because it actually automatically flows into the you, which is understand the business, because you were literally applying the build framework because you were building relationships so that you could more effectively understand the business of, in this case, cancer, right?
Well, the business of saving your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The fighting cancer is the business of saving your life.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, there is no other, I don't think there is another test that is quite so harsh as we are going to remove your immune system and then good luck.
Right. Right. Good luck with that. Here we go. Right?
Have fun.
You might want to understand that a bit, right?
Exactly.
Based upon relationships you have. So, which leads us nicely right into you. So, understand the business. You. What are some key understandings you have about either that or life in general that you think is important to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, sure. It's actually quite a funny one. It's almost shameful, but since 2016, 2017, I've been attempting to ask more questions. And can I ask more questions and say less statements?
Right.
And I think that this is, you know, I don't know, it's still my New Year's resolution, which means I still haven't got there, but I think it's a question.
There's a new year coming, it's okay.
Exactly. You get a new year every year, and that kind of flows through everything. That's a part of my belief around it, is that, you know, you can't change something fundamental overnight. It's a long, gradual process. It's a marathon, and the things that are really important to you to change, it's a long-forming habit. And, you know, for many, many years, I think that it's better for me to, if you can ask questions and you can ask questions in a non-attacking way, then you can actually do more good with, you know, you get more bees with honey.
Right.
And so it's a simple thing of understanding the business, I think, is a really great way of saying, like, you know, to me, I applied that to the cancer journey, is that you need to understand everyone's part in this. And I saw patients getting angry at nurses and angry at the support staff.
And that can't be good for your internal system, right?
Exactly. But it can't be good also for your fight, but also all the other patients around you. You're no more sicker than anyone in the Kinghorn Cancer Centre. Anyone in a cancer centre is sick. You're not more important than anyone else. And the doctors, they have a process for triage. They're really good at that. That's
what they do.
Yeah, that's what they do, and they excel at doing that. So if someone's really in trouble, they really know how to process that well. And I think that that's just, you know, it's the understanding the business of going through this treatment with grace and integrity, so that you're actually holding yourself in the best way possible, and actually understanding, and this is where I really feel like I applied what I'd learnt from many years of consultancy, was you have to manage all of the stakeholders. So your cancer is happening to you, or business is happening to you. You might be running a business. You might be the founder of the business. But it's also happening to all of your employees, your wife, your partner, your stakeholders, your, you know, the sponsors, the investors. It's happening to everyone, and you have to manage all of those expectations. And I think that's one of the things that I'm really proud of, the way that I manage the expectations of all of the different stakeholders, including my own stakeholder in this journey, which included saying very respectfully to people, I don't need your Google doctor information about cancer.
Tons of advice coming your way, I'm sure, right?
Exactly. And I think that that's actually really, it's a really important thing to take in understanding, your business and building relationships is know who are the right people to ask the questions of.
Right.
There's a lot of ask holes in the world, and there's a lot of people who will happily give advice, but are they really the expert that you should be listening to? And do they really have the best intent? Everyone has a good intention when someone gets sick. Everyone wants to help, but it's a marathon, and you need someone who's going to be there for not just the first 3-6 weeks where you're just diagnosed and everyone feels terribly, terribly sorry for it. They all feel guilty or sorry, or I don't even know what feeling it is. But it seems to be a terrible feeling to watch and be helpless and not to be able to help someone.
Right, so you want to do something, right?
And everyone wants to do something. But actually, I think when most cancer patients need you, or when most patients need you, or when most business people need someone, is actually after all of that excitement.
Right.
And it's a bit longer term. A lot of patients speak about the fact that after cancer treatment finishes, the doctors, you have 5 doctors at times, probably more, and then it just stops. And it's this void of support. Right. And this is when you need all of that network, that support. And that's when your friends, your family, and everyone can be most helpful to you, is actually in the rehabilitation. And that's the hard work. That's the consistent routine work. That's the
exercise.
That's the exercise, exactly.
Right. Cool. And that's probably one of the strategies, but we'll get to that. So with I, implement strategies, what are some strategies that you found to be helpful that you want to share today with our listeners?
Well, I think when I was reading through the Build framework again to prepare for this, because you need to prepare properly, right. I really found that it was it is about the acting with intent. You need to know why. If you know why you're acting, if you know why you're calling a meeting, if you know why you're asking someone for help, and then you've got a good reason for why you're asking for help, then people will help you. And I think I always used to think that asking people for help it's not that it was a weakness, but I thought, why would anyone else give their time? Right. But people want to help. But it's about how you ask for that help, and how do you ask the right people in the right time for that help. And I think that's about that really questioning that understanding of saying, why is this the right person who I have, that I've then understood why they're the right person to actually then act in that way. And I think that's what, for me, that's what's really important. And you can take that for every part, is that you don't want to have, silos in your organisation. You don't want to have silos in the way that you do your work. You need a core team that understands the whole component of why you're doing something and why you're asking with intent, even if it might not be with I never write. One of my business partners, she's always like, why do you never write how are you at the start of a meeting? And I'm like, because no one answers anyway. No one on an email ever answers, yeah, I'm good, how are you? That's all quite fake. When you're emailing someone, it's generally quite
cut to the chase. Right?
Well, you're doing something.
Right.
Let's just do it with the intent that it's meant to be done. Right. And as long as people understand that, I'm very focused on it's done, and now it's done. Right.
Done.
Yeah,
agile.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly.
But if you, if I want to ask someone how they are, I actually want to ask them how they are. I want to see their face. You want to have a conversation. You've got to ask them on the telephone. I just don't know if you need to ask people how they are over an email. Right. What happens when they write back and they're like, it's terrible, it's horrible? You're going to pick up the phone and call them. So You might as well do that over a telephone call. I think it's all about modals of comms.
Right. So clear, concise communication, right?
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
And choosing your modal of your communication. So you want to act in a way that aligns with what you can actually respond on, and how can you actually help, or how can you actually be there.
Right. And in the implementing strategies, I know exercise is a big thing that you're talking about, and launching the new exercise prescription. I mean, what are some strategies you think people, whether sick or not, can implement around exercise that would be important based upon all of your knowledge on the topic?
That actually covers part of my last advice that I would give.
Right.
But it's a little out of order maybe.
Yeah,
but,
we'll jump all around.
We'll jump all around, but I think it's actually something Oprah said, and I haven't watched a lot of Oprah, but I remember watching an episode of Oprah when she was talking about her challenges with weight, and the fact that you get to redo every meal after a meal. Don't make the whole day a bad food day just because you had a bad breakfast.
Right.
So just because you missed your morning workout doesn't mean the whole day isn't an exercise day. Just because you missed one meeting or you didn't ask the right questions during that meeting and you said a lot of statements doesn't mean the whole day has to be in that same vein. And I think that's one of the important strategies is for everyone is to be, like, I really hated when people said to me to be kind to yourself. I'm like, what does that actually mean?
Right.
I don't like tea. I don't like sitting on a couch drinking tea. I don't know what kind means, because kind to myself means exercising and investing things that are good for me.
Right.
And so I think it was really helpful to have a situation where you're saying, okay, it's okay that I say, for example, I mean, I did 60 weight workouts and I walked an average of 8,900 steps a day during my chemo regime.
Right. During your chemo?
During
right.
chemo,
wow.
yeah. So to be really clear, maybe it's a good segue of, so the whole point of what we were testing was the fact that I had chemo, so I had intravenous chemo, and so I would literally go into a chair, you go in, you sit down, you can sometimes see it where people are given intravenous chemotherapy. Prior to that, I had my bloods done to check my actual blood levels exactly prior to doing chemo. Then they did chemo, and then I literally got out of the chair, ran around to a different little building that I went into this tiny little room with 2 exercise physiologists and sometimes with my oncologist, and they would encourage me and help me to do a 45-minute very intensive workout, weight-based workout. So I would actually do like a warm-up, and then I would do 6 exercises of 12 reps of relatively heavy weight, and you do those 3 times. So, you know, in total it was a good 45-minute intensive workout, and then we would test my bloods again.
Right.
And the whole aim of this was to see, like, if you think about it, exercise is about flushing stuff around your body. That's how I think about it. Like, it increases blood flow.
Get movement, right.
Right? So you're going to put the most poisonous thing they're ever going to put into your body, right? That they mean to put into your body.
Right.
And you want to flush it around. If there is a cancer cell in my little toe, I need to get the chemo to the little toe. You need to get it everywhere. It does not make sense that you are going to sit on a couch, feel sorry for yourself that you've just had chemo, or eat sugar when you've just put in poison that is there to actually kill the cancer cells. And so there's 2 parts that I understand. I am no doctor, and I am definitely not my oncologist, Dr. Sarah Walrus, because she's amazing. But the whole point is that if you exercise, you can increase the blood flow, which increases the blood flow to the primary tumour, which may mean that the chemo has a higher efficacy or a more effective rate.
Right.
Now, if you're going to put a poison in your body and you've got it for a period of time, you want to make it as effective as it possibly can be.
Absolutely.
And then if you're going to put a poison in your body, you want to flush it out as quickly as possible. And there's only one way to do that. It's a lot of water, and it's exercise.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was encouraged to do the weight-based training 3 times a week. One of them, so I had chemo, for the first part of chemo, doxorubicin, I had, it's not all standard, it's very varied per patient, but I had a doxorubicin, and I had that every 2 weeks, because I was 40 when I was diagnosed, so that's quite an intensive regime. They kind of load you up the younger you are. And my cancer was only 11 mil when it was discovered, so it was very small. It was only found through scanning, but it was gone. It was just gone. Now, I am absolutely sure that the drugs had something to do with that. I'm pretty sure that chemotherapy is really good at killing cancer cells.
Yeah.
I think they've proven that a couple of times
over.
That's what it does. That's apparently what it does very well. But I must admit that I felt that the exercise had a massive impact on the fact that it was only 4 treatments. I still had 12 treatments to go of a different sort of chemotherapy. But I had 4 treatments. In that 4 treatments, I lost 7 kilos of lean muscle mass. And lean muscle mass is massively important for your overall health, well-being, be it your bone mass and density, your ability to withstand your immune system, everything. And if you can think about the fact that that's what, like chemo does that, it destroys a part of your entire, it destroys part of your immune system. No, it depletes, it doesn't destroy. Right. It depletes part of your immune system. And you see significant changes that occur with your body. If you can lose 7 kilos of lean muscle mass, you've got to rebuild that.
Yeah.
And there's only one way to rebuild muscle.
Exercise.
And that's exercise and resistance-based exercise. So weight-based exercise, be that Pilates or yoga or actual weights. And they don't have to be heavy weights, but you do have to do the weights. Or weight-based training, resistance training to rebuild that muscle mass. Right. And thanks to the exercise program that I did, I actually had I had built back my 7 kilos of lean muscle mass within 3 months of finishing all of my treatment. Because Amazing. I kept up that exercise routine. I kept doing 3 times the weight training every week and walking 8,000 steps a day, which is the recommendation that was given to me.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, clearly you're leading and inspiring in all of that, so that could have been the segue to that topic, but how else do you look at leading and inspiring in all that you're doing today?
You have to understand where a person's coming from. I get very frustrated when people don't seem to understand something. But then I've realized that that's actually my problem in the fact that I haven't allowed for that. I have the context that they don't have. And so you have to remember that frustration and all of these kind of things that you do, if you truly want to help people and you want to make things better, then you have to try and understand the context in which that person's coming from and find ways to help them either provide the right information that they arrive at the same conclusion, rather than just providing them with the conclusion.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And that's the same way that it goes through exercise. I could tell you to do 50 push-ups a day, but it's being told what to do doesn't really work.
No.
But when I tell you that you have a 30%, very few men get breast cancer, but if you have breast cancer, then there is a 30% reduction in reoccurrence of cancer when you exercise from the point of diagnosis.
Right.
So I did a biathlon yesterday, and I hate sand running. Like, I really hate sand running. I hate all of it. Every step of it is painful. It's terrible. I broke my knee during a motorcycle accident, so it's all not great, right? But 30% chance recurrence that I never have to go through chemo again
is worth it. Exactly.
It's totally worth it.
So it's the why behind it.
It's the why behind it. But it's the context of knowing that the science that says that there is a reduction based on the type of exercise you do. And if I just tell you to exercise without telling you that, weight-based exercise increases your NK cells and your T cells, and that actually means that you're in a better fight response. And I think about that as little AK-47s that literally run around your body going, ooh, that's a bad cell, let's kill that. Right. And that's exercise. That's what exercise does for you. And I don't think, I'm sure there are some people that love exercising. I don't think it's the majority. I really don't. It's hard when you're doing it. It sucks to do it. You can think of every excuse for the 20 minutes before you're about to do it for why you shouldn't do it. But there is nothing like the feeling of just having it done and just finish it. You don't have to finish it in the world's record time. You just have to do it. It took me, I think I watched the entire Godfather when I did one of my weight-based exercises during chemo because I was just a little bit tired. And it was okay. I still did the exercise. I'm sure Sarah, my oncologist, would have liked me to do it in a more compressed time frame, but all she got was 2.5 hours that day.
Right.
And that's just doing it, just getting it to done.
No, I love that too. And I love how you're leading and inspiring is about education too. Back to you're not just saying statements at meetings, right? It's about ask questions, educate people, and help them come to the why for themselves so that they can truly implement what is right for them.
Yeah.
Awesome. D, deliver excellence. How do you deliver excellence? What does excellence mean to you? And how do you do it every single day? You clearly do.
I think a part of it actually goes back to the strategies, and I think that's what is great about the thinking about having a I really liked about the book was that the build framework provides a filing cabinet for all of the other stuff you've learnt through your life. Because I feel like I've had many. I used to read a lot of, I always say non-fiction and fiction the right way. I always used to read a lot of fairy tale stories, and now I read a lot of life stories, and trying to improve and make things better stories. And I think it's really great to have that framework that pulls it through. And I've learnt through that strategies of, if you can ask the right questions, then you can actually implement a strategy of outsourcing the work to help you to get to done. You can't do anything by yourself as one person. If you try and do everything, you will fail. And to deliver excellence, to me, is actually coming back to that managing stakeholders. It's always to underpromise and overdeliver.
Right.
But so if you look at it, like, to me, the way that you deliver excellence is that you make sure that you have the right understanding of why you're doing it, and that you've actually got the right people involved and you've got the right team behind you. I didn't question when I had to do chemo after the first email. When I committed to it, you just did it, and you had to finish it. You don't question the team. You don't go back and question the doctor again and again and again. Yes, you can have your first round of objections, but once you commit to something,
you're in it. Yeah.
Get it to done, and just do it to done. And I think that that's there is a place, I think there's a really important place to ask questions, but there's a way to not derail what everyone's doing by continuously re-examining and going back to the why. And I see this as companies do it all the time. They just do another strategy again a year after they've had another strategy done. And I just don't understand it. Why are you always questioning the why rather than delivering, measuring an outcome and improving on it, and then maybe examining, is the why and the right metric there? And I think that that's what's so important, is to know the metric you're going after. I had to rebuild 7 kilos of muscle mass. Really simple, you know? Yeah. It's a really
that's
good...
quantifiable.
Yeah, and it's not a clothing size, though I did get into a pair of shorts that I used to fit when I was 18 as a result of that, which was pretty cool. Always have a gold piece of clothing in your wardrobe. But I think to me, it's that, so if you derail, you have to just commit to something and get it across the line. And it doesn't have to be perfect. But getting it across the line and then iteratively improving upon it does deliver results. Trying to question something, making it perfect, and is it exactly the right way to answer the question that JP is going to ask me during the interview, is not always going to work. You can't script everything up in life. You can't make sure it's all there. I think you have to be able to get something to good enough, get it out there, right. Test it, check it.
And then it's there, you're delivering.
Yeah, right. But then it's done. And then you can actually go, right, now how can I do that better? And then you can go through and use that whole concept of having the right people in your team, the build part, to ask the right questions so that you can understand what you're doing, so that you can actually then lead and inspire the team to actually check and measure and what are we doing, so that you can then deliver those results to get that excellence out. Like, it does, it does make sense to me that I really hate a lot of people that they think about applying agile software methodology to all aspects of business, and I think it's quite dangerous because it's a software methodology. I do love the component of it about not being about perfection.
Right.
And that there's bits of it that are relevant to all aspects of life, but that doesn't mean it's all relevant to life. I mean, it's a software development methodology. It's very good at building new software. That's what it's really good at doing. It's not great at managing loads of dependencies. So there's bits that work for everything.
But you're right, people take Agile and try to apply it to absolutely everything in their life. And
it's like,
yeah.
kill me now. But yeah, I do think it's, I've worked in IT and in data and metrics, and measuring results and having a good measurement of results is really important.
Sure.
And just because something was always done that way isn't always the best. I remember at Qantas, we were launching the Qantas credit card, And they always did a launch which had a TV launch. But it makes no sense to me because they have 10 million customers in their loyalty program that they can email and test the system that we've just built. If we go launch with the entire TV campaign and the email campaign all at the same time,
Right.
How do you measure which one was successful? How do you know which one to repeat? How do you know which one returned the greatest investment? And how do you actually also get rid of some of the bugs that we're having that could occur in the system? You want to scale to live. And I think it was the first time, at least it felt from some of the management decisions, like it was the first time Qantas had done that they didn't have the TV launch almost straight away, and they had 3 months. And that 3 months allowed the systems, the processes, all of the people in play to get strong and confident and improve the customer service and to do everything that they had to do to make this a great offering for Qantas customers.
Right.
And that takes time. And you can't, there's only so many dry runs you can do of anything. But there's nothing like getting a real customer phone call to the real customer service centre to work out that bit's broken. But you need to be able to measure it, check it, improve it, and then go back.
Right. Excellence in action, right?
Excellence in action.
So, anything else that we haven't discussed, words of wisdom or anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today that we haven't yet?
Yeah, look, I've never really found a good way of encapsulating that idea of that every second is a re-over. Just because I've made a mistake in what I said in the last sentence or I had an angry conversation with someone, you get to correct it. Like, that's the great thing about the future is you just get to do whatever you want to do next. And just because you acted like this in the past, the great thing about that is just to look at it and go, and this is, I honestly believe men are a lot better at this than a lot of women, is just let it go. Like that silly kid song, let it go, let it go, let it go. I can't remember what
Let it snow, let it snow.
No, but it's the princess that everyone wants to be right now. Anyway.
Right.
I don't have children, so I'm out of touch with some of these things. But she sings, let it go,
right.
let it go. And, I think we can get obsessed with, well, I said the wrong thing or I did the wrong thing. Just own up to it. Just apologize and move on and think, okay, how can I act differently next time? And just do the work. And how can I ask a better question to get a different result? And I think that that's the same as saying, okay, well, how can I make sure that I don't give myself so much grief before I exercise? Because I know that it's going to be good for me. So how do you actually ask yourself kind questions rather than giving yourself harsh statements? And that might be it, but it's that every second of do-over so that you can, I think that I spent 25, probably 40 years of my life telling myself harsh statements rather than asking myself, how could I do that better? Or how can I fix that? Or how do I fix that in a way that actually just doesn't burn any bridges and that doesn't hurt humanity or the planet?
Right.
Like we get to choose whether we get a takeaway cup, and we get to choose every time you eat meat. You get to choose every time you have a meal how much impact you have. You do, because every choice has an impact. But the great thing is that every meal, every time you exercise, every time you work, you get to choose with the right intent of what you're doing to your values. And I'm not saying everyone has to go vegan or everyone has to do anything. You don't have to exercise every day. But to whatever your value is, you get to act like that every day over. It's kind of cool.
It's very, very cool. Amazing. So finally, how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach you and have further discussions?
Sure. The best way to reach me, my name is impossible to spell. Thank you very much, my Irish father, Siobhan O'Toole. So you can actually find me at siobhanotoole.com if you know how to spell it.
Good luck spelling it, just let me tell you. But we will put that up on the screen so you can see down below through the miracle of production value how that is spelled.
But it's also just Lady SKO. So I'm on all the socials as Lady SKO, and it's ladysko.org. So there's Lady SKO actually means shoes in a couple of languages, which is kind of funny because I have a shoe obsession. But Siobhan Catherine O'Toole, that's my name. So it's Lady SKO. It's just, I get called SKO at work. Everyone just calls me SKO because typing Siobhan, every email never worked for me. So like JP, I just cut it down.
Just roll with it, exactly.
I'm just SKO, let's just go with it. But so yeah, you can find me at Lady SKO or at .org or SiobhanO'Toole.com.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's been
No
such
worries.
an honor to have the conversation with you.
Oh, it's great.
Thank all of you for joining us here as well. For more great resources to help you become your best self, including free worksheets and downloads, make sure to check out thebuildframework.com. That's it for this episode. I'm JP. We'll see you next time on The Build Show.